After the end of World War II, the United States Navy was considered the pride and a kind of hallmark of this country for many decades. However, in the 21st century, the United States Navy has been slowly degrading and sinking over the past few years. Surprisingly, the National Security Advisor to the U.S. President, Jake Sullivan, also recognized this fact, speaking at the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington. In particular, he admitted that the condition of the United States Navy is deplorable. According to him, over the past 4 decades, 5 large shipyards have closed in the shipbuilding industry alone, and tens of thousands of people have been laid off from their jobs. As a result, suppliers have withdrawn from the market. And the supply chain of necessary materials for constructing submarines and ships was disrupted. Jake Sullivan noted that after the end of the Cold War, the U.S. authorities assumed that the supply chain of necessary materials at shipyards would operate at the same level. However, these assumptions did not work out. The National Security Advisor to the U.S. President noted that the scale of problems in American shipbuilding is currently very large. According to him, the United States urgently needs to hire 150,000 more qualified electricians, installers, welders, and machine operators to meet the demand for at least nuclear submarines over the next 10 years. At the end of his speech, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan regretfully admitted that due to all these production problems at American shipyards, the program for the construction of 12 new Columbia-class strategic nuclear submarines, with a total cost of $133 billion, is being disrupted. These latest U.S. submarines were supposed to replace 14 obsolete Ohio-class submarines with Trident II ballistic missiles on board by 2031. However, unfortunately for the Pentagon, the U.S. nuclear triad will be left without the latest submarines, due to the ongoing crisis in American shipbuilding. In general, watching the United States, it becomes clear that after the end of the Cold War, Washington relaxed and began to make strategic mistakes, as a result of which the country's foreign policy and defense industry began to degrade rapidly. At the moment, the United States is facing a real industrial disaster for the entire defense sector. The fact is that over the past 34 years, while the United States has been spreading democracy around the world, interfering in the internal affairs of other countries, organizing so-called color revolutions, and overthrowing the presidents of unwelcome states, Russia and China have continued to develop and strengthen not only their armies, but also technologies in the defense sector. As a result, in the 21st century, the United States found itself in the role of a catch-up runner in rocket science, hypersonic technologies, and electronic warfare systems. Moreover, in the 21st century, the United States has also managed to lose its status as a great maritime power. Let me remind you that in 1987, the U.S. Navy was rightfully considered the world's most powerful, with 590 warships of various classes in service. And all these warships were maintained by 8 mighty shipbuilding plants. However, in the 21st century, the U.S. Navy has completely lost all its power. Currently, only 4 shipyards are operating in the United States. And these shipyards are not able to meet the needs of the Navy. Moreover, in the 21st century, only 287 warships remained at the disposal of American admirals, while China has increased the number of its warships to 370 units. And this gap in the number of American and Chinese warships continues to grow rapidly. Yes, unfortunately for Washington, in the 21st century, the United States no longer owns the world's largest fleet, having ceded this status to China. However, the bad news for the owners of the White House did not end there. As it turned out, in the period from 2017 to 2024, the United States also lost its status as the owner of the world's most powerful and largest submarine fleet. And the most insulting thing for Washington is that the United States has ceded this status to Russia, which for decades the US authorities have contemptuously called a gas station country. As it turned out, over the past 7 years, Russian shipyards have been able to complete and transfer to the Russian Navy 15 modern submarines of various classes and purposes. In particular, we are talking about the BORZZIKMAN-class submarines of Project 955M. In the last 4 years alone, the Russian Navy has received 5 nuclear submarines of this project. We are talking about Prince Pozharsky, Emperor Alexander III, Generalissimo Suvorov, Prince Oleg, and Prince Vladimir. In addition, the Russian Navy has also received modern Yazan-class nuclear submarines of Project 885M. We are talking about Arkhangelsk, Krasnoyarsk, Novosibirsk, and Kazan. In addition, over the past 3 years, the Russian Navy has also received 6 modern Varshavyanka-class quiet diesel-electric submarines of Project 636.3. It is authentically known that many of these latest submarines are armed not only with new-generation Bulava 30 intercontinental ballistic missiles, but also with Zircon hypersonic missiles. Thus, as of December 2024, Russia has become the owner of the world's most powerful and largest submarine fleet. And the most frightening thing for the United States is the fact that this gap in the number of the latest submarines is increasing with each new year. It is reported that in the next 5-10 years, the number and power of the Russian submarine fleet will increase significantly. Currently, Russia is building 8 modern submarines of various classes, including new generation ones. The most amazing thing is that Russian shipyards have already surpassed the Soviet Union in terms of their production capacity. Thus, before our eyes, Moscow has finally regained its status as a great maritime power, proving to the whole world that Russia is a global superpower. Against this backdrop, American experts and analysts from the authoritative magazine The Hill called on Donald Trump to call Vladimir Putin and recognize Russia as a great superpower. According to them, Donald Trump's administration should recognize the obvious and start a dialogue with Russia not from a position of strength, but on an equal footing, considering Moscow's national interests. According to them, times have changed, and the United States should reconsider its policy toward Moscow. American experts expressed confidence that if Washington continues to pursue an aggressive policy against such a superpower as Russia, it could end badly for the United States.